Welcome to CCK Live. My name is Kayla D'Onofrio. I'm joined today by my colleagues Michelle DeTore and Claire Babcock. And today we're going to be discussing common mistakes made on claims for VA survivors benefits. So Michelle, do you want to get us started with some background on what exactly survivors benefits includes?
Yeah. So VA offers several survivors benefits to dependents of U.S. military veterans who have passed away. So the dependents may include surviving spouses, dependent children, and even sometimes dependent parents. So the types of benefits are a few different ones that survivors might be eligible for. So they include dependency indemnity compensation, often referred to as DIC benefits. It's a monthly benefit VA will pay when a veteran passed away from causes related to their military service, or a veteran was rated disabled, totally disabled for a period VA requires prior to death, which is often 10 years or 5 years from discharge. You also have VA survivor's pension, as long as it's a veteran of wartime period and that the dependent meets the certain income requirements set by Congress. You also have accrued benefits. This would be a retroactive pay the veteran would have been eligible for or would have received if they were alive. There are also additional benefits that some surviving dependents may be eligible for. They include educational assistance, burial benefits, healthcare, and home loan programs.
Thanks, Michelle. And I know we have a lot of videos that dive a lot deeper into each of those different benefits that I definitely recommend checking out if you're looking for more information on what exactly those benefits are. But Claire, if one thinks that they're eligible for these benefits, how would they need to go about applying?
So to apply for VA survivors benefits, the surviving dependent should download and fill out a VA Form 21P 534EZ, and that'll be available on VA's website. Once the form is complete, it can be submitted online via mail or even in person at a VA regional office. A couple of other important things to note about survivors benefits is that they're not taxable. So survivors pension, accrued benefits, and DIC, these are all tax-free benefits that do not need to be included on a tax return. And another misconception about DIC might be that it's the same rate that a deceased veteran was receiving during their lifetime. DIC rates are different. So when applying for DIC, that's just something to keep in mind, that as a survivor, you'll receive a different rate of monthly compensation than the veteran did.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Claire. It's important to know that once the veteran passes away, their benefits or their monthly benefits do stop from the date that they passed away. As of December 1st, 2022, the current rate for DIC is $1,562.73. But there are some ways that could increase depending on the surviving spouse's background, their need for aid and attendance, their dependency information, things of that nature. So just some extra information to keep in mind when filing claims, particularly for DIC. Now, there are a lot of mistakes that can be made when filing for these types of survivors benefits. They can be really confusing and really frustrating, and mistakes can cause major delays in the processing of the claim or sometimes just an outright denial from VA. So the first common mistake that we'll talk about is just not understanding what those eligibility requirements are. When filing these claims, survivors often forget or just don't realize that there are different eligibility requirements for each type of benefit. These requirements can apply to the dependent, the veteran, or to both, just depending on, again, the type of benefit. So an example of some requirements that might need to be met, specifically for survivor's pension, Michelle mentioned earlier that there are income requirements that the survivor would need to meet that are set in place by Congress, but the veteran also has to have met certain requirements prior to their passing, specifically with regard to their service. So they must have served on or before September 7th, 1980, with at least 90 days of active military service and at least one of those days being active during a specified wartime period. Or if they served after September 7th, 1980, they had to have served 24 months or the full period for which they were called or ordered to active duty, with at least one of those days during a wartime period, and they had to have been not dishonorably discharged. Another example is for spouses seeking DIC. Both the veteran and the spouse have to meet certain criteria. So in addition to the veteran's requirements, the surviving spouse would have typically had to have been married to the veteran for at least 1 year prior to their passing. Surviving partners who were not technically married may still also qualify for DIC benefits under certain circumstances. So one circumstance that might meet that requirement is if the state's law allows for common law marriages. So just make sure you're aware of what your state actually allows as part of their law. Or if the veteran and surviving spouse share a child and either lived together continuously until the time of the veteran's death, or if they were separated, the surviving spouse was not at fault for that separation. And again, we do have more information on different requirements for different benefits that can be found on our blog that I recommend checking out. The next mistake that we'll talk about is failing to provide necessary evidence. So Michelle, do you want to get into that a little bit more?
Yeah, so providing the right evidence to support your claim is essential to avoid delaying your claim and the benefits you're dependent on. So with DIC claims, there is some important information or documentation that you must meet or be sending to VA in order to help your process along. So this could include the veteran's death certificate, which indicates the cause of death, a marriage certificate, any prior divorce decrees, birth certificates, and school transcripts. It also could be helpful to be sending in medical records that support or show the cause of death was related to military service or service-connected conditions. Again, submitting this evidence with the initial application for DIC can help speed up the adjudication process because then they'll have all the documentation at once necessary to proceed through with the claim.
Yeah, and if you don't submit it with the claim, what will end up happening is part of VA's duty to assist will require them to contact you for that information. So it requires time for them to go through what they already have, send you the letter, wait for you to respond, and then process it at that point. So getting it in as soon as possible before they ask can definitely help to speed up that process. The next mistake that we'll talk about is not pursuing an appeal or not filing claims within a particular amount of time. So Claire, can you talk about why that's such an important thing for survivors to be aware of?
Definitely. So one thing to keep in mind is that if a veteran passes away and their dependent wants to seek DIC, in order to preserve the effective date to get benefits from the date that the veteran passed away, the survivor should file the claim within 1 year of the veteran's death in order to preserve that date. Also, another thing that is important to keep in mind is to file an appeal within the correct time frame if you do receive a denial from VA. So a lot of the time, many survivors will get a decision denying them benefits, and this can be really discouraging and leave them feeling like there's nothing that they can do and want to give up on their claim. But it's important to note that you have options. You can file an appeal within a year. VA has several appeal options depending on your situation. If you just want to have another higher level adjudicator at the regional office take a look at the claim, you could seek an appeal in higher level review. If you have additional evidence you want to submit or identify, you can file a supplemental claim appeal. You could also file a notice of disagreement to the Board of Veterans' Appeals. But the most important thing is to file an appeal within a year because doing so will preserve your effective date, which will eventually entitle you to a larger sum of retroactive benefits in the future. And this can also lead to other benefits like healthcare or education benefits. I know that Kayla mentioned those are, we have a lot of other videos about those on our website as well. One other thing to keep in mind is even if you are granted DIC benefits, you may be entitled to even more. There are certain higher or enhanced rates of DIC depending on your situation. So one situation might be if the late veteran was rated 100% or unemployable due to their service-connected disabilities for 8 years preceding their death, and the dependent was married to that veteran for those same 8 years, then the surviving dependent is entitled to an even higher rate of DIC than they otherwise would be. There are other higher rates available for things like if the survivor has a disability and requires aid and attendance, or has a disability and is housebound, and if the survivor has one or more children under 18.
Thanks, Claire. And I think that kind of segues nicely into our last common mistake, which is forgetting that help is available. These claims are really difficult to navigate, and they do often take a long time just because there are so many different things that VA is looking at when they're making decisions on these types of benefits. So it may be beneficial to seek assistance from a veteran service organization, a VA accredited claims agent, or a VA accredited attorney. And accredited really just means that the individual is legally authorized to represent veterans before VA. Seeking assistance can help to ensure that all of the proper forms are completed and necessary evidence is submitted within the appropriate timeframes to make sure you're getting the most out of the benefits that you're entitled to. The accredited advocates here at CCK have used their knowledge and experience to assist numerous survivors with their claims. So if you'd like, please feel free to contact us and we'll see if we're able to help you as well. But I think that's a good place for us to wrap up today. For more information on VA survivors benefits, eligibility, and how to apply, please visit our blog. Also check out our other videos and subscribe to our channel to stay in the know. Thank you for tuning in.